Hello, Box subscribers and viewers, and welcome to Box3Cast Episode 11, where we'll be discussing the 2014 Malaysian Grand Prix and the upcoming Grand Prix this Sunday in Bahrain. I am, of course, Justin.
And I'm Mikko.
And yeah, like I said, we're going to first talk about the Malaysian Grand Prix, which was, of course, won by Lewis Hamilton, who, for the second year running, finishes just ahead of his teammate Nico Rosberg. Although this year no team orders were involved, which is always good. And he won by quite a margin as well. 17 seconds ahead of Nico Rosberg and 24 seconds ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who was the highest finishing non-Mercedes car. And just really impressive stuff from Hamilton. He put it on pole. He led every lap of the race, as far as I know. Hulkenberg, I think, might have taken the lead for a little bit because of his strange strategy. But yeah, Hamilton really just ran away with it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a confirmation of what we've been seeing in testing in the first race. The Mercedes is really in a class of its own, at least for the time.
Yeah, clearly. And one thing that people were talking about a lot before this race is the tire deg. Malaysia is extremely hot with a really abrasive surface to it as well, which is why we were seeing people doing 3 stops, most people doing 3 stops in a dry race. And that's with the medium and hard compound tires as well. And Mercedes, historically, at least the past couple of years, in spite of its speed, has always struggled with tire wear, which in this modern day of F1 has caused them to struggle in the past. But we really didn't see that. In fact, I think Lewis did a longer stint than the Red Bulls. For the first stint, anyway, the first option tire stint on the mediums. I think Lewis went really, really far into that stint.
Yeah, he did. And I think we heard something in the team radio that actually Rosberg was suffering more from rear tire wear than Lewis, which is, you could say it's maybe a little uncharacteristic.
Yeah.
But I guess Hamilton has been honing his driving style to be a little bit not so aggressive.
Yeah, and clearly it's paying dividends. He got his first win of the season. It was also, I believe I heard Crofty say, it was the first Mercedes 1-2 in Formula One since the 1950s. So that is a huge achievement to Mercedes. And I mean, honestly, they should have got it last race. So it's already well past due, but then really past due even, because they should have gotten it in Australia. It was only because of Hamilton's DNF that they weren't able to do that. It's almost a guarantee that they would have been 1-2 in Australia. So big congratulations to the team. They deserve everything. Clearly, they have put a lot of work into this year's car. I've even been wondering recently if they secretly knew throughout 2013 that they were going to be, this prepared. Something tells me that even when they were talking to Lewis in 2012, that they were probably telling him, look, by 2014, we'll have you in a championship-winning car. Maybe not necessarily 2013, which is the era sort of dominated by Red Bull, but with these radical changes, I wonder if they invested a lot more in 2014 development than other people did during the 2013 season.
I think so. It's the I think the only logical reason behind it. And like Red Bull developed their 2013 car pretty far to 2013, even like they were bringing updates still in the second part of the season.
Well, yeah, that was really strange to me, especially when they were being so dominant too.
Yeah, well, you could say that the tipping point was right around Spa after the tire change.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe they didn't anticipate even how far up the road they were at the time. But yeah,
also, they may have underestimated other people, the other team's development of the 2014 car. To put it another way, they may have overestimated the amount of development that people were putting into that year's car. Maybe they just didn't quite realize how focused everybody was on 2014, specifically Mercedes.
Yeah, and I have to say, uh, being the statistic that it was Mercedes 1-2 in like since the 1950s. Well, I have to say that Mercedes didn't wasn't really in the sport for
Right, right.
like 50 years
Yeah.
almost, and they came back in 2010.
Right.
So
Yeah, they took over Braun. Yeah, so they were out of the sport for a really, really long time as an actual works team. So
yeah,
yeah, I did know that, but yeah, good job pointing that out, just in case anybody missed that. But yeah, Mercedes has not always been a part of F1. In fact, the majority of years they were not part of F1. So,
yeah,
but yeah, still a long time coming. Certainly good to get it out of the way this year. Honestly, I think they're asserting their dominance nice and early. It's almost I mean, I'm not even a driver. I'm not part of a rival team, and I am intimidated by their pace. I really, truly am. I'm almost concerned that this is going to end up being like a 2013 Red Bull situation where we just see one dominant car just stomping all over everybody's lowly, lowly F1 cars that just can't quite cut it. I mean, we're only 2 races in, so I'm optimistic at the same time, but I mean, their pace is clearly real.
yeah. And I think we heard Lewis say that he said that this is the best car he's ever driven. Just kind of strange. I mean,
Yeah, I would expect his McLaren
yeah, his
winning.
McLaren,
Yeah,
yeah,
the like what was it? Oh,
2008.
eight. Yeah, I would expect his 2008 car would probably be the best car that he's ever driven. I
But I
think
think,
Martin Brundle drove it and said it was the best car he's ever driven.
yeah, I'm wondering if that car still did they still have traction control in 2008? I think they did.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
that might
wasn't
be one of the reasons why he maybe doesn't regard it as such a
possibly because I think
pure.
I want to say that I'm remembering the China thing where he went into the gravel. I think the traction control for some reason was part of that. What caused that? So I think you're right. I think traction control was around that year.
Yeah, but didn't he beach in China in 2007?
Oh, he might have.
Yeah,
He might
they
have.
did definitely have traction control in 2007. Yeah. Anyway,
But yeah, I mean, clearly it's an amazing car, and they're putting it to good use. I was a little surprised about Rosberg. I'm thinking they maybe went different directions as far as setup is concerned. And Lewis maybe just kind of lucked into a nicer setup. I had Rosberg winning the race, unfortunately, in my prediction because I thought they were going to be closer. And also because Lewis finished ahead of Rosberg in Malaysia last year because of those team orders. So even though I wasn't necessarily thinking that Mercedes was going to be like, right, Lewis owes you one, so you get to win. But I was thinking that maybe that would at least play a role in Lewis's decision if Rosberg came up behind him and that sort of thing. So I was thinking Rosberg might take it, but I mean, he was pretty far off. I mean, Lewis was 3 or 4 seconds up the road within the first 10 laps. He seemed a solid half a second faster per lap than even Rosberg.
yeah, and at some stages, I think the Red Bull Vettel was almost in DRS range of Rosberg. Uh, but then I think he upped his pace a little bit and
Yeah,
managed to pull out a gap to Vettel.
I think Vettel was using a lot of fuel too, if I'm not mistaken. Ooh, that's one thing that we didn't mention in our little pre-discussion that we do. The new fuel flow percentage thing that they
Yeah,
had, that graphic was fantastic. I especially liked that it was updating live. You would see them using hundredths of liters of gallons just by going down a straight. It was really nice. That is it's almost like they were listening to our last Boxcast because that's pretty much the exact sort of thing that we were asking for. And
Yeah.
that was perfect. I really enjoyed that sort of stuff. But if I'm remembering correctly, and I might not be, but I think Vettel was using more fuel. I remember Hamilton was using a shockingly small amount of fuel considering his
Yeah.
pace. Rosberg was using slightly more, and I think both Red Bulls were using even more than Rosberg. Which gives great insight again into the pace of these cars, because you might be incredibly quick, but if you're going to run out of fuel before the end of the race, obviously that's not going to get you the win. So it was really interesting to see that, and that's actually a good segue into Red Bull, who had a really surprising dry pace. I think everybody was like, okay, Vettel qualified high up in the rain. Rain kind of levels the playing field. Vettel turns out not such a bad driver. I understand that. But even the dry pace of the Red Bull, as you said, he was really close to Rosberg for a lot of the race. And Ricardo's pace as well looked really, really good. He seemed really strong. I think he actually passed Vettel in the opening laps.
Yeah, and when I watched I really tried to watch the practice times that they were doing, and the Red Bull was really up there doing 1 minute 44s. And we talked about this with Alex in Twitter, and he said that it's boring to watch the race
Times.
pace things
Yeah.
because you don't know what tires and fuel level they are.
Yeah.
But at that stage, I really thought that Red Bull has a really good race car, and I wasn't surprised at all that Vettel was so far up there.
Yeah. I mean, it was really impressive. I mean, the amount that they have come back. They were looking. I mean, they didn't even score really in the first one. I mean, they did, but Daniel got disqualified, of course. But I mean, just in testing, they were looking so weak. It was looking like they were maybe around where Lotus is or Toro Rosso or something like that, the other Renault-powered teams. But it's amazing. Second race of the season, and clearly they're already podium contenders, maybe even race win contenders as soon as Bahrain, possibly, depending on their next update.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they want to race this season. Not at all. And the per if you look at their budget, they're the biggest team for sure. It's I think their budget is close to 400 million, which is insane.
Yeah, if you can't win a race with that amount of money, then you should probably just give up.
Yeah, and their development rate is also it's just unbelievable. I think they have easily the amount of resources to bring updates to almost every race.
Yeah.
And of course they got Newey, so they're pretty much solid in the in the aero department, and that's
Yep.
what we really saw in the race, that they were really strong in the middle sector, also in
Yep.
the first sector, but then on the straights lost out to the Mercedes powered
Yep.
cars, at least 2, 3, or even 4 tenths on the straights. And
And that's probably why you never actually saw Vettel pass Rosberg, or that certainly at least played a role.
yeah,
Because no matter how close you can get, if you can't get the top speed, then you're not going to get by.
yeah. If you watch the after after the race was finished, and Vettel and Rosberg were talking in German, and there's this little moment where I don't know what they're saying, because I don't know, or I don't speak German, but like he's signaling with his hands like that they're coming through the second to last corner, and then he just says like whoosh, like points directly like he's trying to follow Rosberg and he's getting pretty close.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
on the straights,
Just
he
drops back.
just disappears to the horizon. Yeah, go watch
That's
that back. It's a great, great.
I missed the post race stuff because we had the PR or I had PRL and AOR races that Sunday. So as soon as the checkered flag dropped, I pretty much closed out of it. So I haven't seen that yet, but I'm definitely gonna have to. I want to watch the pre-show even because I'm that hardcore of a fan. But again, Ricardo's pace really good too. Clearly, he's proven that he can at least harass Vettel if nothing else. But just really, really horrid luck for the number two Red Bull driver. It's I don't know what it is with Australians and Red Bull, but
Yeah, it's
so
Mark Webber's car.
yeah, exactly. He had the pit stop problem, which was similar to Jensen's pit stop problem that they had in Malaysia last year, the exact same place, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Force India had some wheel nut issues then as well.
Yeah, but
But
basically the wheel nut wasn't entirely on. He got sent down the pit road and had to get pushed back. And then in the process of them hurriedly pushing him back and trying to fix the wheel nut and all that, they may have loosened the front wing or slightly damaged it, something along those lines. He's out on track and his wings half falling off, and he goes into the pits for that. And then he gets a penalty for an unsafe release. Well, he didn't get the penalty. The team received the penalty, but he gets the unsafe release penalty. And then on top of all of these things, and on top of being disqualified in Australia, his Bahrain race is already ruined with a 10-place grid penalty. He's had 3 races ruined, and we're only 2 races into the season.
yeah, and we already know who are we gonna
Yeah.
go for
Most positions gained.
most positions gained. Yeah, in the next race.
Absolutely.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, that's a pro tip for all you GP predictors out there. Pick Ricciardo for most positions gained. Absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, I can pretty much guarantee that he would be getting about 10 positions, which is quite a lot in F1. So really unfortunate luck for him. But it's so strange to me because he's having this horrible luck, and at the same time he's proving his worth. Which is really good that he's doing that. He's proven that he's a mature driver. He's able to clearly handle Red Bull and all the stuff that goes along with being a Red Bull driver. And he's doing it with style, and he's shown his pace. Just unfortunately, he's got no points to show for it.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be in the championship really. Well, not in the title hunt, but I think somewhere around 5th or 4th.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if only if he just manages to get to the finish line without any major issues.
Yeah, and without being disqualified after standing on the podium as well. So we'll move on from Red Bull, but just in general, certainly they are looking like competitors now, which is good to see. I almost am worried about Mercedes really rather than Red Bull this season. If I had to pick someone that's going to run away with anything, so let's move on now to. Let's actually switch to McLaren. Jenson Button had good pace. Magnussen struggled a little bit. It was almost like this was Magnussen's first race rather than Australia being his first race.
Yeah, kind of.
It was a little weird. He had the incident with Kimi Räikkönen that caused Kimi to get a flat tire, and he got a 5-second penalty. First person of the 2014 to get 2014 season to get a 5-second penalty, which they served while doing a pit stop, which is very handy. I like that new penalty. It's not so severe, but at the same time, it is going to affect the person's race.
I think he got 2 points in his license as well.
Oh, okay. And if you go to 15, that's a race ban, correct?
I can't remember the amount you can get, but
I believe it's 15.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's more than 10% of the way there if that number is correct. So yeah, he is going to have to. Those do expire. The points do expire on the license. I don't remember how long it takes for those to expire, but
A year.
Okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
he does need to be a little careful. Only 19 races in the season, and so far he's averaging a point per race. So yeah,
I
he's gonna
think
have to watch out.
it's a bit peculiar actually that they last for a year. It doesn't mean a season. It it's a year. So if they
So it actually lasts
it
until
carries
Australia
over
of
the
next
year.
year.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. That's really interesting then. So yeah, he's gonna have to play it a little bit safe. I'm not worried about him though. I'm not expecting that he's gonna be the next Pastor Maldonado or anything like that. So I'm sure he'll be fine. But he did show good pace. McLaren in general showed good pace. Jenson Button in the end finished sixth. Interestingly enough, though, behind Nico Hulkenberg, which makes me wonder if McLaren is faster than Force India, or if just Nico Hulkenberg is that good.
Yeah, really tough to say. I think the Force India really it's looking like it's again kind of on its tires because
hmm
Hulkenberg was I think the only one who did a two stop.
The only person I know of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the majority of people were on three-stop strategy.
Yeah, and uh, good on him. He was a little bit struggling with Alonso, and in the end, I don't think we were expecting him to be
No,
quicker than
yeah.
the Ferrari. So, yeah, really strong performance as always.
Absolutely, yeah. The funny part is, though, based on his distance to Button, I don't think it would have made one bit of difference really if he had even done the third pit stop. Just, I mean, he probably could have thrown on a set of the options on the final couple of laps and still finished in fifth place and maybe set fastest lap as well. So, I mean, as you said, the Force India clearly pretty good on its tires, which is great for modern F1 racing. It was just a real shame that Perez didn't even get a chance to try and race the car. I was actually trying to look this up before we started. What exactly was the problem with Perez's car that prevented him? It was a cylinder problem or something like that?
I can actually remember. Um, yeah, I don't actually know. So if you have any details on that, you can find. But
Yeah, I'll look into it. But okay, electrical system.
okay.
Nope, that's a different one. Sorry,
Oh.
never mind. But the point is, he didn't even make it out of the garage. Really unfortunate, especially because I had Perez for most positions gained. He didn't. He missed an entire day he missed an entire free practice session. I want to say it was FP1 or FP2. I think it was. Yeah, I think it was even. I think it was FP1 he missed. So he was an entire session behind Nico as far as setup was concerned. So and then also Nico is better at qualifying. So I was expecting Perez to be pretty low in the qualifying, which is exactly what happened. Actually, he only got 14th in qualifying. But I was expecting him to make up a lot of positions. I was thinking he was going to maybe be one or two positions behind Nico. So possibly harassing Button or something like that potentially. So I was really disappointed by that. Perez obviously was really disappointed by it as well in his interviews. But that sort of thing happens. Nico's first race of 2013, he didn't even make it to the grid because of his fuel tank problem in the Sauber. So that sort of stuff happens. It's more about how you handle the stuff that happens to you like that rather than when it happens. So he just needs to move past it. We got a little sidetracked from McLaren as well. But the McLaren certainly looked better. The updates that they brought to Malaysia, it seemed to improve it, but I don't think they found that half second a lap that they were looking for.
Yeah, that's a little bit optimistic maybe from Ron Dennis.
Yeah, yeah. But I am expecting that they're going to continue this sort of aggressive development path. I think Ron rightfully sees them as championship contenders. Maybe not for the drivers' championship, but for the constructors' championship, maybe because of just DNFs and stuff like that. Obviously, they're not winning at the moment, but if they can consistently keep putting in really good performances while other people are dropping by the wayside, then they could be really strong as a team even if they don't have that championship winning driver like a Vettel or a Hamilton.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they continue their development, but I don't expect them to bring any updates at least for the next race, or probably not even China, but we'll have to see.
Probably Spain would be next, I imagine.
Yeah, that's the logical place to usually
Yeah,
bring a
yeah.
update package.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because Spain is such a strange track, and also this year, of course, no testing in Spain at Catalunya. Yeah, it was just Jerez and Bahrain this year. So,
No, they got
uh,
the mid-season testing back this year, isn't it?
oh yeah, that's right, that's right. Wouldn't that be after the Spanish Grand Prix though?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this it is going to be their first time running at that track for this season with the new cars. So they'll be a little bit less prepared versus previous years, where of course they got preseason testing in Catalunya. Let's move now to Ferrari, since we were talking about McLaren and Magnussen hitting Kimi. Kimi could only manage 12th. Oh, right. You told me he had a damaged floor on his Ferrari, and that's what slowed his pace through the field.
Yeah, I think I read that in his one of his interviews after the race, but yeah, really a shame. He looked like he had really good pace during the whole of the weekend, and pretty well, not completely compromised by the rainy quali. Sixth place was pretty okay for Kimi in quali, so uh, really got a little bit on maybe a bit too on the outside in the first corner, so I think he got pipped by uh, can't remember who, but I think Ricardo had a really good start. So
I think, yeah.
yeah, so well he stayed about the same position, but yeah, really disappointing, and that's just one of those things. So what about Alonso?
Yeah, Alonso did well. He finished fourth, which is actually where I had Kimi finishing because I thought he was looking much better for this Grand Prix. But Alonso in the end got fourth. But he was actually unhappy with the car, is what he's been saying. He was kind of fighting it. I wasn't able to find any specifics. He just wasn't happy with how it was performing. And I guess if Fernando is only a second a lap slower when he's unhappy, then it could be really competitive once they sort out their issues. But they're clearly up there this year. They're not dominant. They're I wouldn't even say they're necessarily second fastest, but they're probably thereabouts. If they're not second fastest, they're pretty close to it. It seems like they have kind of minor issues here and there. Well, Kimi's flat. That was kind of a major issue, but not with the car. But they seem to just have small things here and there. No major problems. Both cars finished the race again this time. So they're 4 for 4 as far as cars finishing the race distances. Well, I think Kimi was a lap down actually in Malaysia here. Yes, he was. So he only did 55 laps, but still, they're 4 out of 4 for finishing, and it's clearly got decent pace.
Yeah.
They're not as far back as they have been in other years, certainly.
For what we're hearing is that the car is still overweight. If someone's thinking about that, about the Formula One cars weight, that there's only a minimum weight that the car has to weigh, but there's no limit uh, how
Heavy,
heavy it
right?
has to be or can be.
Right. Isn't the
So
Sauber overweight as well?
yeah, I think the engine is part of the problem. So
Gotcha.
I know that the Mercedes has this. Their turbo is kind of split in half, so the actual turbo is right where you would think it should be, like
Hmm.
behind the engine. But their compressor of the turbo, the turbo is consisted of two parts: the compressor and the actual turbo. And the compressor is on the other side of the
Engine.
of the engine, yeah, and the
Oh.
MGUK, the motor generator unit, is like it's in between them.
Hmm.
So it's really good on the engine plumbing because the turbo is generating so much heat that the compressor that's trying to compress uh, the intercooled air into the actual engine, that it's the turbo, because it's so hot. I mean,
They
it's
want
the compressor is trying to uh, like shove more air into the engine, and the cooler the air is, the more power you're getting.
to.
So
Right.
having the turbo separate from the compressor adds more power. So that's why the Mercedes engine is better. At least the Mercedes that the in the works team, they
Right.
have it configured like that. I don't know about the rest of the teams, but at
Right.
least the Mercedes have good power thanks to that. So we don't know if the Ferrari has this same type, but I don't think so. It's looking like an innovation of the Mercedes team.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so yeah, if they can maybe get down on their weight, work out all of these little kinks. I mean, I think it's very likely they're going to win a race this year. As you were saying with Red Bull, I would say maybe Red Bull has a slightly higher chance at the moment versus Ferrari based on current performance standings. But I would be really surprised if Ferrari ended the 2014 season without a win.
Yeah,
Especially when you
without
consider
a
the
win.
lineup. Yeah,
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 it
without a
would be
win.
really disappointing.
Yeah, if you got Kimi and Alonso in Ferraris, you would expect one of them to at least get a win.
Yeah, I think
So
Kimi's got some like custom parts for him coming. I don't know about, probably not to Bahrain, but I'd say probably China. And I think it's
hmm,
down to his preferences in his steering.
braking. Oh, steering. Okay.
Yeah, I think like something to do with the steering rack or something. So
Yeah.
I think because his turning style is a little bit different from Alonso's, so he's probably just requested something different that they're custom building for him.
Nice. Man, I guess that's what it's like when you're an F1 driver. You can just have custom built car parts made for you. So yeah, hopefully they can get to grips with that car. Kimi can get it into a place where he feels comfortable with it and he feels that confidence. Clearly, I mean, Kimi won a race not 14 months ago, 13 months ago. So Kimi is capable. The question is if the Ferrari is capable. It might not be right now, but certainly with their development rate, they're another big team with a lot of money, a lot of funding. So hopefully they can pull that together. And in fact, I'm willing to bet that they will. Let's move on now. Let's talk about Williams really quickly. Uh, the infamous words being spoken to Massa. Valtteri is faster than you. Um, that was really strange. What I find really strange, actually, while we were talking about that, and before I forget, on the official Formula1.com website, they have a poll right now asking, should Massa have let Valtteri Bottas pass in the closing laps? 37%, as of when I'm reading this, 37% say yes, 36% say no. And a surprising 26% said, I don't know. I don't think I've ever found a 26% group of people that just don't have an opinion about something. People love giving their opinions, especially when it's anonymous. So that's
Yeah.
crazy to me. So clearly, it's an intense issue. Personally, the way that question is phrased, the way it's phrased, should Massa have let Bottas by? My question is, or my answer is no, no. If I'm Massa, I'm not letting this guy by. Forget that. If I'm answering from the point of Williams, like should Williams have asked Massa to let Bottas by? The answer then maybe would be yes, because the team is thinking about the team. Massa is thinking about Massa. So really, both answers are right, but I think the way it's asked on this one, should Massa have let Bottas by? For me, it's a no. It's only the second race of the season. We're talking about a 2 point difference for the team. It's not going to make or break anything. And the poor guy has spent like half of his life hearing that so and so is faster than you. So yeah, I thought that was a little cold of the team, especially to phrase it the way that they did. That was a little cold of them, but I think Massa was totally within his rights to defend that position.
Yeah, you could go really on and on about this subject, and
Yeah.
people have really gone on and on about it, and people really seem to be a little bit divided.
Yeah.
But certainly the way it was done, it wasn't the greatest way. We talked about this earlier, and I think like the better way would have been to say that okay, they did tell that Walter has 2 lap fresher tires,
Right.
which isn't make or break thing, but I think if they just said that if you can't get past Bun yourself, then have let Walter have a go.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's the best way to say it.
But to say it, Walter is faster than you, using the exact same words as Fernando is faster than you, it is just brutal. And I'm thinking, actually, when we're recording this in European time, it's Tuesday, so Rob Smedley should be joining the team today. So wonder what he's thinking about that.
Well, I'm sure he's glad that Massa didn't obey the orders. Honestly, I'm surprised they thought that Massa would. To be honest, it's almost cute that they thought he would say yes. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think just providing Massa the information to make his own decision about it is the better way to go about it, because the way they approached him with this scenario was basically them saying, "Hey, we think that you should let him by." When maybe they shouldn't have taken a stance on it one way or the other. They should have just maybe provided the information, said, "Hey, maybe let Valtteri have a go at it if you don't think you can get by Button." So, yeah, I think that would have definitely been the better way to go about it. Now, you did a great job of predicting Williams' pace, actually. For those of you who listened to the last Box³ where we talked about our predictions for Malaysia, Miko very intelligently pointed out that the Williams was struggling. I think it's through turns 11 and 12 in Australia, the very high-speed left-right in Sector 2 in Australia there. They didn't look quite as confident through there, and so you accurately predicted that they might struggle in Malaysia, where there are lots of high-speed corners, where you need lots of downforce. Where most of the track, aside from like the last turn and the first turn, require a lot of downforce and that sort of thing. So they struggled quite a bit, especially in qualifying in the wet. They were really struggling. They were quite a bit off the pace. Did either of them? Did they make it into Q3?
I think Massa was right around 10th or something like that. I don't know. I think Massa, think it even dropped in Q2.
Massa 13th.
Yeah.
And Bottas 18th. Yeah, so yeah, they didn't even make it into Q3.
Valtteri had that 3-place grid penalty.
Right, that's right. So he was 15th.
Ricardo.
Right, so he was 15th instead of 18th.
Yeah.
So I guess the good news about that, though, is they were right near each other. They were 13th and 15th before the penalty. So that's clearly the pace of the car. No fault of Massa or Bottas for failing to get out of Q2. Because clearly, when you have two drivers that struggle that much, I mean, these guys are professionals. That's not bad luck. That's, bad grip.
Yeah. All right. So we'll talk about Bahrain later. So what about Caterham? You, of course.
Yep.
Really.
I like Caterham. I like Kamui too, as well.
Kamui, yeah.
Yeah, I like Caterham because of Alex Rossi. of course.
Yeah.
I've been a Caterham fan ever since he started driving for them. And I also really like Kamui Kobayashi from his Sauber days. So I was really excited about this pairing. And I think Malaysia, they both Kamui and Caterham showed that they are pretty competitive, actually. A lot of people probably noticed, he's a lap down and he finished outside the points. What's new? Well, what's new really is that, I mean, they're closer to Lotus now, I think, in pace than they are to Marussia. So I think one of these teams at least is finally starting to get there. And I think part of it is, of course, because the other teams are struggling. Part of Caterham's speed comparison to Lotus being so close has just as much to do with Caterham's success as it does with Lotus's failures. But it's impressed me both from Kamui and Caterham. That was a dry race with no safety cars at all. And Kamui was not that far behind Kimi, who did make an extra stop, but still, you have to put all these things into perspective. And I mean, if that had been a wet race from start to finish, I think there's like a 60% chance Kamui might have been in the points, as long as he didn't crash the car, which is always an option with Kamui. But I think that shows lots of promise. I think Kamui showed, that he was a good choice for the team. He put up some great fights, specifically with Grosjean. I think it took Grosjean a lap and a half to 2 laps, something like that, to actually get by Kamui in the final stint. So great job from Kamui. Clearly, the car, comparatively to previous seasons, it seems a little bit closer to the midfield. So it's really going to depend if they can continually bring updates. They're certainly a small team, but if they can keep bringing updates, keep improving the car, with just a little bit of luck, I think they might get there this year.
Yeah, it's gonna depend on where everybody else is, at least now in the first part of the season. So personally, I think the Lotus actually isn't looking half bad in the high speed stuff. It's looking like the twin task thing is working as far as aero goes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's down to their engine reliability, and I wouldn't be surprised if I would suspect the Lotus is one of the Lotuses being on the points in a couple of races.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and I think we know which Lotus.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend.
I think still, a Caterham getting in the points is looking. It's gonna require some extraordinary circumstances.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's gonna take some luck or just a huge push. I mean, no matter what, it's gonna take some luck, even if they have a huge push, because they're still probably maybe 3 or 4 tenths per lap slower than they need to be in order to get into the points. So they would need to not only gain that 3 tenths, but they would have to gain more time because the other teams are gaining time as well. So it's almost certainly going to require luck. But if they push hard enough, then it's going to require less luck, certainly. So hopefully it's something that they can make happen. I think you're exactly right about Lotus. It's only a matter of time before Grosjean gets into the points. It's going to happen. I think it's driven him to he sees the position that they're in. He recognizes that he's the number one driver on the team. He knows that he's the one that's going to have to get it into the points if they want some. And so far he seems pretty mature about it. I mean, I haven't seen any articles or news things where he's just griping and moaning about the reliability or pace of the car. So I mean, he just needs to keep doing what he's doing currently. Let the team take care of the problems with the car. Let Renault take care of the problems with the power plant. And yeah, not too long from now. I think before the summer break, we'll see a Lotus in the points for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. And you were positively surprised to see Kvyat in the points.
Yes, yeah. This is a perfect thing to end on. Kvyat is really impressing me. This is now immediately, like 2 weeks after becoming the youngest person to ever score points in Formula One, he goes and does it again in a dry race in a Toro Rosso. Really impressive. Certainly, yes, the Toro Rosso seems strong this year. It's pretty weird too to me because they didn't seem really strong throughout testing. They weren't really on my radar as far as consistent point scorers.
Yeah.
I really thought the top 10 was going to consistently be dominated by Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, and then some Mercedes-powered teams, Williams, Force India, what have you. But Toro Rosso, I mean, this is now 2 point. Vern scored points. They had their first race. They had points from both drivers. Vern was looking pretty okay speed-wise in Malaysia. He did, of course, DNF in the end. But Kvyat, again, comes home in 10th place and gets another point. I think that's 3 points total for him. And, I mean, the kid's 2 for 2 as far as scoring points in F1 races. I
Yeah.
mean, even if he doesn't score next race, he's at a 66% point scoring. So it's really impressive from me. I was skeptical of Kvyat for sure. Just because he was so young, I wasn't so sure he was ready. Even the drivers, I think Jensen Button said, these kids are coming in, they're not ready for this. And he's proved that he's ready in certain respects. He did also have that weird moment with Alonso where he broke the Ferrari's suspension in qualifying. So he is still a
Yeah.
kid, clearly. But damn, that kid has pace. I mean, he is fast.
I have to say about that qualifying, I think Alonso even himself said that the accident was pretty 50-50
Yes, yes,
in
because Kvyat did what you're supposed to do. It's exactly what I would have done had I been in that situation. But when you're closing in on a car like that and your tires are under rotating and you're locking up, you're going to slide right into the back of this guy. You have to go left or right. Alonso was already as far right as he could get. So Kvyat went left, and Alonso didn't notice that he was there. He turned in on him. Maybe that's part of the downside of having the quieter cars. It's harder to tell when one is coming up on you from behind it at a rate of knots. So
and the conditions weren't too bad, too
right,
good.
yeah,
There was a lot
yeah,
of spraying there, so
yeah,
and Alonso did this. He went to the outside and then he tried to like square the corner to make a
yes.
90-degree turn. So he just probably didn't see Kvyat in his mirrors.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone was talking about. I mean, he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah,
In a race scenario, he's watching his mirrors 24/7, I would imagine, unless he knows there's a massive gap behind him and he's being told on the radio. And there are a lot meaner drivers that he could have run into, so it's probably for the best that it was Alonso and not Kimi, for example. Kimi may have punched him in the face or something. So. Um, but yeah, really, Kvyat is really impressing me right off the bat. He's already impressed me more than Ricardo or Vern ever did in a Toro Rosso.
yeah. And a quick word on Sauber doesn't really really seem to be uh, doesn't really seem to be going well for them
No.
in the second round. So uh, really struggling. I don't know what's happened to Sauber,
Well,
but
they did lose Matt Morris last year. He was, I believe, lead car designer. He's now at McLaren. I believe that's his name. I want to say it's Matt Morris. It could be something else. I'm pretty sure it's
okay.
Matt something. But they did lose him to McLaren last year. I remember when that happened, actually. It was kind of awkward because it's the same guy that does all of their technical videos, or who did the technical videos last year.
Yeah, right.
And he moved to McLaren, and they kept releasing all these videos of the guy in Sauber clothes and everything. It was a little weird, but they lost him. They lost Hulkenberg after openly telling him that he had a seat available there at Sauber for him. And yeah, it's. I was actually expecting before this season, I was expecting there was a high chance of Perez returning to Sauber to partner Hulkenberg. So I was super surprised when both of them were confirmed at Force India. They must be loving that decision right now, though, because the Sauber just, again, we mentioned it earlier, it is overweight, partially, potentially, because of it having the Ferrari power plant. But it's overweight. Their drivers are not really impressing me either. Sutzel's always been sort of an average. I mean, he's just like a Paul di Resta clone, maybe
Yeah.
not even quite at that level. um, and Gutierrez, I mean, this is only his second year, so I don't want to be overly harsh. And he doesn't have a great car at the moment, but again, he's not really super exciting at the moment. He really wasn't super exciting last year either. I think he had a few good moments where he was racing people wheel to wheel. Of course, he did a good job in Suzuka last year. But the car doesn't seem great. The driver lineup doesn't seem great. It seems already we're only in round two. It seems already almost like a year to forget for Sauber.
Yeah, I think because of their budget issues last year, I think that's hurting them this year if they didn't get their development right at the start of last year or when they switched the development to the 2014 car. I think they just, if they're having trouble with their payments on their last year, then how can they pay for the development of this year? So
Yeah.
that might be some of the reason.